Gemini adaptable have none. They're not adaptable. They're not versatile. They're not good with people. They're a performance artist who's been on stage so long, they forgot what their actual face looks like. And the worst part, you'll never know because they're that good. I've spent 15 years watching Gemini disappear in plain sight. Clients who can't answer what do you want without checking who's asking first. Partners who morph so perfectly into whatever you need that you don't notice there's nobody home. This video breaks down the 3 psychological layers that turn social butterfly into identity crisis. And if you love a Gemini who feels like a different person depending on the room, you need to understand this. Because what looks like charm, it's erasure. Everyone sees the adaptability, the Gemini who matches your energy perfectly, laughs at your jokes, mirrors your interests. They're intellectual with intellectuals, spiritual with seekers, cynical with skeptics, sweet with romantics. They fit everywhere, belong nowhere, and people love them for it. You're so easy to talk to, you just get people. You're like a chameleon, and Gemini smiles, agrees, takes it as a compliment. Because that's what it's supposed to be. Right? They've optimized themselves into the perfect mirror. You talk about philosophy, they're philosophical. You need lightness, they're funny. You want depth, they'll give you depth, not fake depth. Real enough that you believe it. Real enough that they believe it too in that moment. But here's what nobody tells you. They're not choosing to adapt. They can't stop. Watch what happens when you ask Gemini who they are when nobody's watching. What they actually want. What they believe when there's no audience to perform for. They freeze, deflect, turn it into a joke. I don't know. I'm a Gemini. We contain multitudes. Or they'll intellectualize it. Identity is a construct anyway, you know, and you let it slide. Because they made it sound smart. But that wasn't wisdom, that was panic. Because Gemini learned something early, something brutal. They learned that being themselves whoever that wasn't enough. Wasn't interesting, wasn't lovable, but being what other people needed. That worked. That got attention, affection, approval. So they started performing. Not consciously at first. Just mafachi this. Downplay that. Emphasize this interest with these people. Hide it with those people. And it worked so well, they kept going. Until the performance became permanent. Until they'd shapeshifted so many times, they lost track of the original shape. Now they're 35, sitting in a coffee shop with someone who loves them, and they can't answer, "What do you actually like?" without calculating what answer makes them most likable, most interesting, most. Right? They don't know. They genuinely don't know. And that terrifies them more than anything, more than abandonment, more than failure. The possibility that if they stop performing, if they stop mirroring, if they strip away every personality they've tried on, there's nothing underneath. Just emptiness, silence. A person so boring, so ordinary, so fundamentally uninteresting that even they wouldn't choose themselves. So they keep adapting, keep changing, keep being whoever the room needs them to be. Because at least that person gets loved, even if that person isn't real, even if they're disappearing. But here's the part that breaks everything, the layer nobody talks about. The reason Gemini can't stop, even when they're exhausted from performing. They're not just afraid of being nobody, they're addicted to being everybody. Because every time they shift, every time they become someone new, there's this rush. This feeling of, see, I can be anything. I'm not trapped. I'm not limited. I'm free. Except they're not free. They're fragmented. Every version they create, it's real in that moment. They're not lying. They genuinely feel it, believe it, become it. And that's the trap. Because if every version is real, then none of them are true. And Gemini knows this. Deep down, they know. But admitting it means admitting they've spent years building an identity out of borrowed parts. That the person everyone loves doesn't exist. That they've been so busy being interesting to everyone else, they became invisible to themselves. So they don't admit it. They just keep switching, keep adapting. Keep showing up as whoever you need, while the real them, if there even is a real them anymore, watches from behind. Glass, screaming, unheard, alone. Maya was 29 when her therapist asked the question. Not how does that make you feel? Not what do you think caused this? Something simpler, worse. Who are you when you're alone? Maya laughed. Reflexive, defensive. What kind of question is that? A straightforward one. I'm me. I'm the same person. Her therapist waited. That horrible therapeutic silence that forces you to fill the space. I'm adaptable. Maya tried again. I can connect with anyone. I'm curious about people. So that's what you do. I'm asking who you are. And that's when it happened. Maya opened her mouth. Nothing came out. She tried again. Still nothing. Not because she was being stubborn, because she genuinely didn't know the answer. And then she started crying. Not pretty crying. Not controlled. Full collapse. Shoulders shaking. Breath catching. The kind of crying that comes from somewhere you didn't know existed. I don't know, she finally said. I don't know who I am. I've been so many different people for so many different rooms that I don't know which one is real. Or if any of them are. She looked up at her therapist, mascara running, voice breaking. What if there's nothing there? What if I peel back all the versions and I'm just empty? The therapist didn't rush to reassure her. Didn't say, of course, there's something there. Just let her sit with it. Because that was the truth Maya had been running from for 15 years. Behind all the charm, all the adaptability, all the perfect mirroring, she didn't know who she was. And she was terrified to find out. Here's what's actually happening in Gemini's brain. And this is the part that'll piss you off, because it's true. They're not confused about who they are. They're avoiding finding out. Because as long as they're performing, as long as they're adapting, as long as they're being whoever the situation demands, they get to avoid the devastating question. What if the real me isn't enough? Every personality they try on is a defense mechanism. Every version they become is armor. Because if you reject this version, they can just become a different one. You're not rejecting them. You're rejecting a character they played. The real them stays hidden, safe, untouchable, unknown. And here's the sentence nobody wants to hear, but everyone needs to. You're not protecting yourself by being everyone. You're erasing yourself, because identity isn't something you find. It's something you build through choices, through consistency, through saying this is what I believe, and this is what I want, and this is who I am, even when it makes you less likable to certain people. But Gemini can't do that, won't do that, because committing to being one person feels like death, feels like limitation, feels like they're giving up all the other possibilities. So they stay fluid, stay adaptable, stay performing, and they call it freedom. It's not. It's a cage made of mirrors. And they're trapped inside, watching themselves shatter into infinite reflections, none of them whole. The astrological ruler is Mercury, communication, intellect, duality. And here's what that actually means. Gemini is wired to see multiple perspectives, to understand different viewpoints, to bridge contradictions. But they've weaponized that gift into self-destruction. Instead of integrating perspectives, they fragment into them. Instead of holding contradictions, they become them. Instead of bridging differences, they dissolve into them. And the air element, that's supposed to be about ideas, connection, flow. But air without container just dissipates. Disappears. Becomes nothing. That's Gemini. Evaporating into whoever's breathing them in. If you're Gemini and this is crushing you, here's what changes. Stop performing for 30 days. Pick one version of yourself, the one that feels most true, even if it's not the most impressive, and stay there. Don't adjust. Don't mirror. Don't adapt. Let people see that version and only that version. The discomfort you feel isn't proof you're doing it wrong. It's proof you're doing it right. Answer this question in writing and don't edit. If I could never impress anyone again, who would I be? Write for 10 minutes. No stopping, no filtering. The answer that emerges, that's closer to the real you than any performance you've given. Choose one thing you believe and defend it even when it makes you unlikable. Not to be contrarian, but to practice having a core. Most Gemini have spent so long agreeing with everyone that they've lost the ability to stand for anything. Start small. Build from there. Get a therapist who specializes in identity work, not someone who'll let you intellectualize. Someone who'll hold you accountable when you start performing in session, because you will. You perform for everyone, even yourself. Understand, they don't have commitment issues. They have identity issues. They can't choose you because they can't choose themselves. When they shift personalities, it's not manipulation, it's survival. They're terrified that being one person means being the wrong person. Tell them this: I don't need you to be perfect for me. I need you to be consistent. Pick a version, any version, and stay there long enough for me to love it. Then decide if you can love someone who's still figuring out if they exist. Some will choose themselves. Most won't, not because they don't want to, but because not knowing feels safer than finding out they're ordinary. Drop a comment. Which version of yourself is real? Next video breaks down Scorpio's control addiction. You'll hate it.